Law enforcement authorities have issued a stern warning against driving under the influence of alcohol this festive season. As part of plans to curb road carnage during this period, traffic officials will be deployed across all provinces to monitor road safety adherence. In efforts to stem the anticipated tide of road crashes and injuries, several non-governmental organizations are calling on South Africans to be aware of the effects of irresponsible drinking. To discuss this matter further, I'm joined by Sibani, Mngadi, who's the Corporate Relations Director for Diageo SA. A very good morning to you. Thank you for your time. You're one of the NGOs that have made this call to citizens to avoid the ripple effects of irresponsible drinking. Why was it so important for you to add your voice?
Good morning, Paul. Actually, I'm representing the alcohol industry, so we have quite a great deal of interest in this area. We do believe that our products, yes, they do bring enjoyment and good social occasion, but when used irresponsibly, then they cause a particular problem, and one of which is drinking and driving. And we are trying to work together with government to make sure that at least we minimize that problem. We have agreed on a couple of targets with the Road Traffic Management Corporation, as well as the Department of Transport, to try and make sure that the 27% of road fatalities that arise particularly from drinking and driving and drinking and walking, that get addressed in a couple of ways through this campaign that we have launched.
Let's talk a little bit more about these targets that have been set out.
Yes, we had a decrease in fatalities last year, but we do think we can still stretch it with another 10% reduction in the number of fatalities this year. And therefore, we are approaching it in broadly three ways. One is a media campaign where we appeal to the conscience of drivers and road users, that it's not only about them only. Many of the people who are using roads and vehicles are people who are breadwinners, who are parents, who are relatives of others. So if they get injured, it's a problem for everyone. Also, car accidents also lead to problems for other road users who have been behaving responsible and get to be victims of road accidents. And then the second part is to put in some incentive as well for people to behave appropriately. We have put in an investment of about 2.5 million in the incentive program to give people Uber and other hailing services vouchers when they visit outlets, and they are able to win those and be able to utilize that instead of driving themselves to and from the outlets. And of course, the third element is the reality that this is the law, and if people continue to break the law, then there need to be some consequences. And we have made available what we call alcohol evidence centers, where we are able to assist the traffic officers to collate appropriate evidence that will lead to a more successful prosecution.
There's a lot of facets that are involved in ensuring that the new national festive campaign that you were speaking about, it's not just about you, really gets heard and becomes implemented during this festive season. What role do you believe that ordinary community members can play in assisting in curbing the number of these road fatalities and binge drinking and underage drinking?
Well, this is quite important. At the end, it is a responsibility rests with the individual who purchases and uses the product to use it in a more responsible manner. I think the key thing is to plan your movements and make sure that if you decide to go to a bar, to a tavern, make arrangements on how you're going to get back from there, because it's not just sleepover environment. You need to get back home, and therefore either utilize taxi services and various other options, even the designated driver if you're a group and that have one of the group members to not consume it on for that evening, and then they are able to drive everyone back home. And then, of course, we are working also with the traders themselves, particularly around underage drinking, to make sure that no one below the age of 18 is allowed into an outlet or served alcohol. And I think we will be making quite good progress. We are developing a program where we will be able to at least verify identification of people, particularly also on the online sale where people are able to purchase and have home deliveries. We believe that's probably one of the risk areas which we need to close, so that people below the age of 18 do not have access to alcohol.
And as this campaign really aims to appeal to citizens' greater sense of responsibility, we cannot ignore the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact that it has, especially when it comes to drinking and being in socialized spaces and also being with a lot of people around you. What would you like to encourage as we are well into the second wave and also into the festive season when it comes to being alert and conscious of drinking in large numbers and the dangers that come with it?
Well, on that front, as an alcohol industry, we actually, before even the president announced the new interventions against the second wave, we had already taken a decision to pull out of all the special events. You know that during this period, there are big events where there's music and various forms of entertainment, and we have called those off. And we are appealing to all the traders to make sure that they comply with the rules, particularly around keeping the outlets at less than 50% to the maximum of 100 people. And that's very critical for keeping the social distance that is needed. And also the traders need to be aware that it's not only voluntary now to comply with these regulations, it's enforceable by law. When you allow people to enter your establishment without mask, therefore, you may face consequences in terms of the law. And of course, we would like to support the law enforcement element of that as well. In this space, we are appointing close to 1,000 what we call community patrollers who will be deployed in hotspot areas, places like Nelson Mandela Bay, Garden Route, and various others, where they are able to check if the outlets in those areas are complying with the regulations. If they are not, then they are advised accordingly. If they violate those rules, the patrollers are linked to a police station in that area, and that can be investigated appropriately. And we hope the liquor authorities and liquor boards in those provinces will be able to take appropriate decision. If a license is reviewed or suspended, certainly as producers, we have committed not to supply any stock to that outlet.
And very lastly, as you make your appeal to motorists on the road and really roll out this campaign to ensure that we do indeed curb the number of road fatalities this festive season, what sort of appeal would you like to make to motorists to really be conscious before they step into a vehicle?
Yes, as I said, it's all about planning, and people need to remember that it's not only about you. It's not only if you take a decision to consume and drive a car, this decision does not only affect yourself, it affects your family, it affects various other people who are utilizing the roads, the pedestrians, the other drivers who may end up in a problem because of that particular decision. So we appeal that people really do some pre-planning before they go out to enjoy themselves. It's critical that we keep to the COVID regulations and don't get exposed to infections. But also, on the other hand, we also plan appropriately to utilize alternative transport, get a buddy to travel with you who can then drive a car as a designated driver, and make sure that we keep out of the road after utilization of alcohol for both drinking and driving as well as drinking and walking, because we have realized that also pedestrians are becoming more and more victims of road crashes and fatalities, and we'll appeal that people really keep out of the road when they consume our products.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time. Sibani Mngadi from the Corporate Relations, he's the Corporate Relations Director for Diageo and Industry, really just sending out a stern warning, calling on citizens to avoid the ripple effects of irresponsible drinking this festive season.